Hello, and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell Rabin, and I'm very glad you're joining us again today. Today, we're going to have another very interesting show. We have invited one of my uncles, one of my favorite uncles, Daaji, who has come here from India. I have come here to New Jersey from New York. He had a much larger adventure to go on than I did, but we're very glad to be here together to talk about a number of different very pressing issues that are facing our planet today. And Daaji, which does mean uncle in his language, has a purview that I wanted you all to hear about here on our show. You have been listening and watching for a long, long time. And you know that we like to have perspectives that help to enlighten, enrich, and illuminate our world so we can make it actually a better one for us all. Daaji is the author of this book, Spiritual Anatomy, and we'll be speaking about that as well while we go on with the show. Daaji.
A pleasure to meet you, Mitch. Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
So glad to have you here at A Better World. You're making it a better world already. So, I have a lot of questions I'd like to ask you, Daaji, but I'd like to sort of begin, because you have set up a worldwide community of meditators, practitioners, healers, environmentalists, trainers, 16,000, you're in some 160 countries. I mean, the United Nations has hardly pulled that one off. So you are far and beyond what most teachers from India and elsewhere have actually accomplished. And so it's really with great pleasure and honor that I sit with you today to discuss these things.
Thank you, Mitch.
So I'd like to begin with a simple question, Daaji, which is, with all this that you have created and your entire life trajectory, what is it that you feel most deeply drives you to make all of this happen?
I like to share the joy of spirituality, the peace of purity, that one and all, without an exception, can tap into the divine source and be one with it. There's no exception to it. Only requirement, do you really crave? Are you hungry for that? That's all that is required. You don't have to leave anything whatsoever, your lifestyle, your clothes, your Eastern way of life or African way of life or communist way of life. Don't worry. Practice and see where your heart would end up leading you into.
That's beautiful.
Different levels of consciousness which unfold every single day as we practice. And that is the offer.
I love it. One of the things that I hear distinguishes what you're doing is so much of the world of spirituality revolves around this idea of mindfulness. And I think that that's actually a very good thing. However, when you drop down into the body and you reach the other big brain of ours, the heart, you start to get to the place where the greatest depth of meaning actually lives. So would you speak with that? To that idea of heartfulness, which of course, this is the Heartfulness way. And that brings people to a level of meaning, a sense of simplicity you were referring to earlier, and depth that I find, who I've been meditating for a long, long time as well, the practice of mindfulness, while valuable, doesn't reach the roots, if you will, of our beingness. And I'd love for you to talk to us about that.
Well, when we play with consciousness, degree of awareness, when we are at the mind level, our consciousness is at some level. But when it transcends from mind to the heart, your awareness will change. There will be greater perception. Your heart will feel either joyful or hurt or sorrowful. That perception only multiplies when it descends into the heart. When you think of something, that's the mind. Right? But when that thought creates the impact in the form of feelings, perception, that is the heart, the consequence of it. When I say, you, Mitch, or some person who is very rude and say, hey, you, it's the same word, Y-O-U. Versus when someone who really, really loves you, your grandchildren perhaps, your grandpa, that you move, it stirs your heart. The other, you, when someone who doesn't like you says that, it affects you. So you see, even mere words, they bring some level of awareness in the mind. And the same word brings different level of perception in the heart.
Yeah.
So perceiving things with the heart is on an evolutionary scale, it is much higher. When we talk of evolution of consciousness, right? What is evolution of consciousness anyway? How would
That's a good question.
How would we recognize that my consciousness is evolving? I see three factors into it. Does my mind give me the right signals? Am I thinking correctly? If I'm continuously thinking correctly, then I'm on a right track. But thinking all the time drains your mind and you might end up having a headache. I tell you from my personal experiences, I ran pharmacies in New York City.
Right.
And no business is without challenges.
No people are without challenges.
And especially drug business, pharmacy business,
Yes.
where, customer comes and say, you SOB or things like that. You didn't fill my prescription. Where is my, this pill and that pill?
And that's when they were in a good mood.
And then they say, oh, my insurance, when you say your insurance is not paying, they come back and they hit at you again, see, the arguments. But it's difficult to convince elderly folks. Most people, who are on medications are elderly people, and to interact with them day after day. And there are other issues. I would say interacting with elderly is easier than the other business issues that we confront. And your mind remains occupied for days together. When your mother or sister or your wife notices, what's wrong with you? Tell me. And you start sharing. Your mom ends up giving you the solution before you even finish your problem. Now, how does that happen? You are the witness of the problem, but someone else with a different faculty gives you the solution. Ordinary woman.
Yeah.
Because their heart, their perceptive heart, comes up with a solution. Man remains busy with thinking and thinking and thinking various ideas and complicate the entire problem.
Yeah.
But a person on a higher scale of evolution who refers to the heart, listens with the heart, they come up with a solution immediately. So to me, evolution of thinking, mind, is to solicit the help of the heart, the feelings.
Yeah.
Right? Now what happens to your intellect as you evolve? We understand thinking mind now is evolving into the perceptive heart. We use more of it. What becomes of your intellect? As we move on intellect to intelligence to intuition to wisdom. These are the pathway of its evolution.
Mm-hmm.
A wiser man doesn't have to intellectualize like few people like us.
We're learning.
We are learning. Right? Wiser ones, they don't have to intellectual because on that scale of evolution, they are much ahead of us. They have instant answers.
But you know why I think that is? Because they've learned to listen to the heart.
Yeah.
And that's what's informing that evolutionary stage of wisdom.
Yeah. And the third thing that...
Does that align with what you think?
Yes. Experience teaches you everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, it's beautiful. I'm going to just take some of what you said and kind of translate it into a larger anthropological perspective, if you will. And that is, all indigenous cultures from every single part of the world always has this notion, listen to thy heart, do as thy heart bid thee, right?
Correct.
And that has in turn informed the different spiritual traditions, especially those that listen closest. And the Indian tradition is known for listening closely to that wisdom. And you are carrying that forward in such a beautiful way. Because there are plenty of Indian traditions also to get a little lost in the head as well. So this just puts more importance, if you value, on the heartfulness way, if you don't mind my saying. You know, I'm not just speaking lightly. It's important because look at the world. And what you were saying, Daaji, kind of leads into where I wanted to go. We look at the world today and we see a world of a lot of suffering, a lot of confusion, a lot of complicatedness and complexity. And the wisdom that comes from simplicity is how I think.
Correct.
And I think that what you're talking about, what we're talking about, is that if we were to come from our hearts when contemplating, for instance, the wars that are raging all across the planet, and just say, look, everyone wants peace. How do we get there? Let's stop blaming each other. Let's come to a place in the middle. There's a sweet spot in there.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts?
As far as war is concerned, I don't have a solution. It's a long process.
Mm-hmm.
We have gone too far out into this development. Wars are unavoidable in the modern era. Main culprit, something that should have united humanity, is actually separating them. The religion.
Interesting.
Religion is the basic culprit of these wars.
I think you're very right.
And who would want to give up their religion? When the religion itself promises that you die for the religion, you will be entered into heaven. You're not afraid of death. In fact, you find victory in losing your life. How can you stop such warmongers?
It's not going to happen.
It cannot happen.
So if we step out of that into the plane of being, the level of consciousness that the Heartfulness Way is promoting, and you and 16,000 trainers are teaching all around the world, what is it inside that can bring a sense of peace to this larger world in which we live?
Well, Moses and Jesus and Krishna could not bring peace with the magic wand or with their staff.
But we can?
No, we cannot bring the word peace. We can try have individual peace.
Mm-hmm.
One heart at a time.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot have family peace also without individual peace. Even one person is upset, the whole family is rocking.
Sure.
And even in the family, your son says something, or your daughter says something, or wife says something. We all have difference of opinions. And often we end up having, arguments and irritations and anger and whatnot. So when a person is centered within oneself and understands, and each family member also understands, then there is heavenly feeling in a home. So the two fundamental aspects are needed for a foundation of peace in a family. Correct thinking of each individual and right understanding.
Yeah.
You can say something, but she may not understand it, and it goes on a different tangent. Then you're in trouble, though you did not mean it.
Yeah. I have a background in holistically oriented psychotherapy and stress management consulting. And one of the cornerstones of the work that I do with people is empathy training, learning to stand in someone else's shoes. And I've got to tell you, it works like a charm.
Yes, yes.
Because even when there are disturbances like you're describing in a family and disagreements, it's from misunderstanding, miscommunication, either the use of language or the use, before you were talking about attitude, and I did read your article, which I loved and agree with completely, about the importance of attitude in all of our life activities. But when you put yourself into somebody else's shoes, the mind is so versatile, as is the heart, that our imagination is so rich that we can actually start to experience the world from their point of view.
Yes.
Could you comment on that a little?
Well, to be empathetic, you still need some level.
I saw you brighten up when I used that word.
Yes, because empathy is a product of being aware, not only of yourself, but surrounding others. And to feel their pain, to feel their joy, takes a lot of strength also, a lot of commitment.
That's right.
And having empathy that, okay, I felt something, what next? It must go to the next level of being compassionate. And then a next level of being kind and solve the problem. Suppose when in your empathy you felt the problem to be X, Y, Z, or in your empathetic state you feel that my daughter is not able to pay the rent. Okay. What do I do next? I just remain empathetic.
Write a check.
Write a check. That completes the circle. See?
Yep.
So it's a progressive thing, otherwise empathy is meaningless.
And I'm glad you said that, because it's another platform I would like to kind of jump off of, which is this. We've divided the world into matter and spirit, spirituality, divinity, and the material world. But this is a false dichotomy, and you and I know it. It's all one. You can't have one over here and not have one everywhere. It's fractal, right? So with that said, and now I'm going to refer to your book and the 16 chakras and all the other infinite number of chakras that you also referred to recently. How do we take those and harness this awareness, intelligence, and cultivation of life force and direct it toward this idea called a better world? How do we do that?
Well, it's a very practical question for one and all to listen and see how we can move forward with the simple methodologies that we have traversing through these 16 chakras. Even if you traverse through 5 chakras, I would say you have attained a lot. You have attained so much that the things that polarizes an individual at an inner level. For example, you are torn apart one day with a lot of anger, another day with a lot of love. One day with so much of fear, another day with so much of outrageous courage that you have. One day you are so peaceful, another day you are so restless. So things like that. One day you have so much of clarity, and the next day you have so much of confusion. So when we transcend through these dualities,
Yes.
these so-called opposites, we'll have tremendous peace within. And that is the promise of this meditation, that when you meditate, you transcend through these opposites, the dualities of life that we call. And these dualities are very specific to each chakra. So when we transcend that chakra, the duality of that chakra is finished. You're done with. And so to that extent, you are liberated. You feel freedom within. You're no longer being trapped by your anger or even love.
Or by love.
Because as I was sharing, that experiences are great, but to become is different. Loving someone is one thing, but to become love is different.
Oh, okay. This is a fun distinction. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The one person was very upset one day when I was saying, look, there's a beautiful rose. It doesn't bloom only for Jewish people. Or it doesn't bloom only for a Muslim or a Hindu.
Do you know that my grandmother was named Rose? So keep going.
I'm so happy. So it blooms for one and all. So when love really culminates in a being through such practices, it is not targeted to anyone. It is all embracing. Though my love for family, motherly love or fatherly love or love among siblings, it will remain unique.
Yes.
It is not compromised.
And it's not one love fits all.
No.
There are distinctions, particularities in the way we love a woman, the way we love a friend, the way we love a dog, or that rose, for that matter. Yeah, of course.
I do strongly believe that energy, can never be destroyed. Right? That's, I don't know who said that. It's
Einstein.
One of the scientific principles. It can never be destroyed. It can be converted.
Yeah.
So love is also an energy.
Surely.
Right? When electricity is passed, for example, through the fan, it creates turbulence in the air, gives wind.
Right.
The same electricity passed through a heater gives you heat. So the air conditioning, cooling it gives you cold air. Refrigerator, it freezes things. Right? So energy is transformed into multiple things. My love for my mother is not same as my love for my wife, though it's the same love. And same love will manifest differently for people in general or the Almighty.
That's right. That's right.
So many faces of love, but it's the same thing.
Absolutely true. And what I would like to know is how, through your organization, you are, because I feel where you're coming from, and I love it. And I know that you have a strong love also for Mother Nature, another one of our great mothers.
Yes.
And I know that you're doing a lot in that space to help provide greater beauty, actually. Planting trees, you've got all these activities that are out in the world, changing the world, making it a better place. I think it's so beautiful. All those are different expressions of your same heart of love. And I personally, for one, appreciate it, and I'm sure hundreds of thousands of people across the planet do as well. What can you say to people about what they can do in their own lives to help to cultivate this attitude so there isn't so much anger getting in the way and obstructing a more peaceful world?
Well, we have lived our lives, most of us.
And still living.
We're still living. But most part of it is gone. I think of future of my grandchildren and their children, and children who are yet to be born. How can I improve them now, even when they are not here? How can I have a powerful and better progeny with a better consciousness than myself? Genetics says I can only transmit what I have. I can transfer my genetic code to the next progeny. How can I change that now? Right. Reproductively, I cannot do anything now.
You know, there's a wonderful concept in science called epigenetics, going beyond genetics. Okay, good. And as such, what you're doing and who you're being right now and who I'm being is affecting and influencing the next generations as well as the people around us.
I love you mentioned the word epigenetics because I have such an interesting, very interesting discussion, and I have read thoroughly the books. Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton.
I know him well.
What a wonderful
We're bringing
work.
him to New York, actually.
Wonderful work.
Alan and I right now. Yeah.
And how our behavior, the environment we create around us and within us, changes the genetic expression. And that's what I was coming to, actually. Where
I was reading your mind.
So we have to behave, we have to create such a climate so that epigenetic changes can bring about better consciousness. He has done a lovely study with the mothers-to-be in the neighborhoods where mothers-to-be are suffering. They're always under sympathomimetic mode, meaning stressful situation. And he also studied mothers-to-be in very harmonious families. And in his research work, he did find that the cognitive abilities are compromised because the blood supply to the embryo of a stressful mother,
short circuits.
It is less. It is not enough for the cognitive part of the brain. But it rushes into the amphibian part, the reactive brain, and also the blood blood supply will be more in the limbs. But to combat that fight or flight situation, and when the blood supply to the fetus is more in the limbs, it is at a cost of visceral organ. It is diverted from digestive system and liver and lungs and whatnot. So there, this entire inner visceral organ is compromised. See, the stress. Now, if parents are in a stressful situation, and that the incoming soul has nothing to do with all that, but you are transferring your problems to the future generation and cursing them with lesser and lesser cognitive functions. And you end up saying, oh, what the hell is God? Why did he give me such a child? You start saying, why the hell did I have sex at all? So, I think
not much inner awareness in that situation.
One has to become very careful with oneself before inviting a new soul into the world.
You're hitting a very important area of a lot of the work that I have done actually as a therapist, which is looking at the prenatal time period, which in our world gets shortchanged. Right?
Yes.
I'll put it that way.
Well,
Right? It gets shortchanged. People don't realize, but that the language of the parents or the mother and the pregnant woman and their dialogue is being received vibrationally into even the zygote, at least the embryo, right?
Definitely.
Which you're
Well, I'll share
indicating
with
here.
you
I
a
love
very
it.
interesting story because you are also into this prenatal consultation. It's a true story also, not just mythological. There was a king in almost 7,000 years back. He could not perform. He was impotent. So he requested his brother to impregnate his two queens. Right?
Two queens, no less.
So his brother obliged. He was a meditator. He was in the forest and all that. He said, I have nothing to do with your kingdom. I'll meditate. But he was brought in at a particular time. He said, this is the best time. So,
most auspicious.
yes, these what they call astrological positions are perfect for the moment of conception. So, and he rushes, not to miss that moment, to the first queen's chamber. And seeing his attire, she's aghast and she says, my God, not with this fellow. Anyway, they make love. After some time, again to match another time, what we call astral time, to match the fine zodiac, he goes to the second queen's chamber and looking at him, she freezes. Her blood circulation stops and she says, my God, not with this guy again. They make love, okay. And these two queens, they say, okay, not so that we don't have to repeat this exercise again and again. Let's invite our maid to mate with him. Maid was very happy. She felt honored that, wow, such a great meditator or a sage has come and I'm being honored with his presence. She worshipfully, with reverence, makes love to him. Now all three conceived. The first to be conceived was blind. Second to be conceived turned out to be leucodermic. And the third was the wisest of the lot. So it depends.
Wow.
They say, the moment of conception decides majority of outcome of the growth of your progeny at a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual level.
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
Back then, and of course, Vedic astrology. I don't want to go on and on too long here, but I'm enjoying it immensely, and I really could. But just to say, Vedic astrology, distinct from Western astrology, starts at conception. So you're already ahead of the game, so to speak, in understanding the larger psychology of the being.
Attitude.
It's interesting. Right?
Attitude of parents at the moment of conception.
Yes.
That creates a certain vibratory field around them.
Absolutely.
And that attracts the soul of a matching.
That's right,
frequency.
that vibration.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's beautiful. Daaji, you are doing beautiful work, and I just want to thank you and tell you what a pleasure and honor it has been to sit here with you and, as we say in the old language in New York, schmooze with you about all these subjects. And I hope and feel that our dialogue will really help to enrich those that listen and, take people to another operating level. And I really do hope that people come and join your beautiful work in Kanha and here in New Jersey and everywhere you go. And I know you go everywhere. So you've covered a lot of distance. And I just want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing and spreading the love.
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. And namaste to you.
Namaste.